All right, so you may have heard of the Reflex Defensive Rider System that Harley is offering as an option, a $1,000 option upgrade for their 2020 touring lineup, including trikes. CVO models come with it standard. We're going to break it down in this video and basically tell you what you need to know in an understandable way, and so you can make a decision on if it's something you want to add to your bike and if it's worth it. Let's dive in. Welcome back, Bikeaholics. Ryan Urlacher here, lawabidingbiker.com. I always thank you. That's right, you watching, for checking back in. All right, real quick, I'll pop a card and link to it in the description below, but you want to check out my video I already put out on the full Harley lineup for 2020 and everything you need to know and what's changed. This Reflex Defensive Rider System, RDRS, is just one thing that changed for 2020 models. And real quick, before you leave this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and bell icon. Every time those are hit, another biker joins the revolution. We would love to have you be part of it. All right, let's start out by saying this Reflex Defensive Rider System, RDRS, is not a new concept. In fact, many bike manufacturers have been putting this technology on their bikes for years now. Harley is not new to the game either, because I will tell you that they've already been doing reflex linked brake systems. That came out on the new Rushmore bikes, 2014 and newer touring models. And let me explain basically what that is. The linked braking system, let me start by saying this. You all know that you shouldn't rely on these systems. They're great systems, they save lives. I encourage these systems, but you should never exchange that for actually knowing how to properly ride and properly brake and things like that. They're kind of a last resort, in my opinion, that you should rely on. So we've all heard the 70-30, 70 front brake, 30 rear, you know, when you're emergency braking and that kind of stuff. Well, that's exactly what the Rushmore bikes and on have been doing. And essentially what that means is if you do screw up and you panic, or you're not training and an experienced rider, and you grab too much front brake in an emergency, well, what that's going to do is it's going to also, whether you want it to or not, start applying some of the rear for some of that emergency threshold braking. In the same effect, if you grab too much rear, it's also going to start braking the front. We've been out on the police courses during our emergency braking drills. It is an amazing technology. We have went into braking boxes at higher speeds and grabbed all front or grabbed all rear, and it does a pretty good job. So again, not a new technology. With this RDRS system, they've added some things and they've enhanced it, and we're starting to get into some cornering braking and ABS stuff. But anyways, with this RDRS, when you purchase it for $1,000, it comes in a package and it comes with multiple things, and I'm going to break each of those down for you now. All right, before we dive in too deep, let's just make sure we all know what ABS is, because it's pretty standard now. Anti-lock braking system, especially on the touring models. If you've ever felt that in a brake pedal or anything like that, basically when you push it real hard and the tire is going to lock up, you'll feel it vibrate or pulsate very, very quickly. And that's doing exactly what it says. It's keeping your tire from locking up. So that's ABS. And real quick, I realize I said all touring models, this is an option for it is, except for the Electra Glide Standard. Everything else you can get it on. So let's first talk about cornering enhanced electronic linked braking, or CELB. All right, so we can make this really complicated, but let's not do that. This is computers, amazing computers and electronics doing all this real time, but essentially it's just what it says. And it's that linked braking that I already talked about, but in a corner, which is really cool. So basically, it takes into account your lean angle or a trike's lateral acceleration, and it knows that. And so when you're going in a corner and you have to brake, it's going to go ahead and help you with that linked braking system, where again, if you grab too much front or too much rear, it's going to apply to the opposite. And essentially, that is exactly what it's doing. And so hopefully if you're not riding correctly and you get into a situation where you panic and grab too much front or back, it's going to keep you in that corner and keep you on your intended path. Did I mention don't rely on these things? Nothing replaces proper riding technique and practice. All right, guys, real quick, and we'll get right back into your video. A lot of man hours, effort, and of course finances go into keeping this YouTube channel going strong. There is a way you can support us by becoming a patron member, link in the description below. Basically, you pledge a certain amount per piece of content, no risk to you because you can put a monthly cap. There are benefits such as t-shirts and stickers, access to the private Facebook group, it's a troll-free zone, access to our live video broadcast and chat, access to our premium videos up on request, and access to those ride and meetup events. All right, let's get back into your video. Next, let's talk about Cornering Enhanced Anti-Lock Brake System, or CABS. And so yeah, that's basically cornering ABS. You see, the pressure required to limit wheel slip in a corner is usually less than in a straight line. And so it takes into account when you're cornering and you do get in a pinch and you hit ABS, it's figuring out your lean angle, or on a trike, that lateral acceleration. And it's helping you be able to use ABS in that corner, which is pretty cool. And the ABS on the front and rear wheel operate independently of each other to prevent uncontrolled wheel lock. Next is Cornering Enhanced Traction Control System, or CTCS. All right, so traction control. Many of you are familiar with it in cars. It's been coming on some motorcycles for some time now, so I'm really glad that Harley is having it in this RDRS package. It's essentially what it does. If you're taking a corner or you're even riding straight and your wheel starts to spin, it's going to try to get it to stop. It's also going to take into account your lean angle and how much it needs to do if you're in a corner or something like that. So that can be very helpful, especially if surfaces are changing or something like that. It's going to come in two modes, the way I understand it. So it's going to have a standard mode that you can set it in for like dry surfaces, and then it's going to have a rain mode for wet surfaces. And the nice thing is you can turn it all off if you don't want to use it. That's super important to me when training on police bikes. We don't really want that on. It can kind of hinder us. And also in other situations, you may not want it on. So I'm just glad that you can actually turn it off. Next is Cornering Enhanced Drag Torque Slip Control System, or CDSCS. And so basically what this is, it doesn't matter if you're cornering or just going straight. A lot of times if you downshift aggressively, you can get rear wheel lockup. Well, it's going to help deal with that. And so on the fly, it'll basically adjust engine torque delivery to match rear wheel speed to road speed. And of course, like I said, it'll detect lean angle and on trikes, that lateral acceleration. Okay, next is vehicle hold control. Again, many motorcycles have had this for some time, but basically what that is if you're on a steep hill or parking or parking garage or somewhere where you don't want to roll, you can activate this, and it's basically going to hold your vehicle. It's going to activate the brakes and hold it in place. Essentially, the way I understand it is you can either, once you come to a complete stop, either give extra pressure to the front or rear brake and it will activate it, and it will hold your motorcycle in that position until you either hit a brake, one of them, or you throttle and start pulling away. It will detect that and it will disengage. Could be useful for a lot of riders. Again, I've just learned to use my brakes on steep hills and stuff, but nonetheless, could be helpful. And apparently, the way I understand it, there's also going to be a way to activate it without your brakes, and there's going to be a light indicator on the dash. So I don't know if that's in the form of a button or some control to do that. And again, as soon as you try to roll away and roll your throttle, it's going to deactivate. And just to mention, this is vehicle hold control. This isn't an emergency brake or parking brake, because as soon as you put your kickstand down, it's going to disengage, or if you shift into neutral. And last is your tire pressure monitoring system, TPMS. And this is definitely not something new. You'll be able to see, well, on your touring models with boombox, you'll be able to see it on the boombox, your front and rear tire pressures. And on your Road King models, it'll be somewhere located around your odometer. So I don't own a dealership, don't work for a dealership. I'm not sponsored by Harley. This is an independent channel. And so you ask me, is it worth spending the $1,000 to add this package, this RDRS package to your touring model? Let me start by saying, as a full-time police motorcycle officer and police motorcycle instructor, I can't emphasize enough that proper training and proper riding technique is always number one. In my opinion, you should not rely on these systems. They have a purpose. They're there for, I believe, if you do mess up and you don't use proper technique, or you panic or get in a pinch, it could save your life. It could give you out of that. And when I think about that, you really can't put a price tag on lives or injuries and things like that. So I definitely recommend getting this package for your Harley. Okay, I think I'm done, guys. I'm gonna pop a couple of videos on the screen for you. Check them out before you leave. One of them will be the video I made on the new 2020 Harley lineup. There's definitely some things that you should know. All right, I'm gonna go for a ride. Peace.